Hello and welcome to Movie Buffs, a show where the action is the juice and where we live our lives a quarter mile at a time. I'm your host, Shani B. You can find me on all the socials at It's Me, Shani B.
And I'm your other host, Cisco from Misfit Minded. I'm excited for this movie today. I was just telling you, where the action is the juice is from a director we haven't talked about today. So
hmm
you can also follow me on all the socials at Misfit_minded and my website, misfitminded.com. Just put a review of The Bear season 3 on there. Um, kind of a controversial season. So read what I thought, and let me know what you thought of it too. Chicago show though, you gotta love it. So
That's true. Yeah. And I am excited to hear the Discord around it because it's true. People really love that show, and so they've got a lot to say
a
and a
lot of
lot.
opinions.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yep. Each week, we take the red pill and we use our certain set of skills to break down the best action films of all time. And today we are talking about the 2004 film Collateral. Yes.
I got 5 stops to make. Why don't you hang with me? I don't know. Yeah, you do. You killed him. Good guess.
I thought you were a cool guy.
I'm a cool guy.
Oh, no!
You threw a man out of the window. I didn't throw him. He fell.
He's coming to kill you.
I'm not playing.
Slow down.
Collateral. You still breathing?
Rated R. Starts Friday, August 6th, everywhere.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
If you haven't seen it, it is about a cab driver who unluckily picks up a hitman and must take him all around the city of Los Angeles against his will, and
That
do his
hitman just
best.
happens to be Tom Cruise. That's like the catch though.
Yeah, the catch. The most unassuming hitman you would ever see coming.
Yep, exactly.
But yeah, pretty straightforward story in that way. To get the bullet train started, we will go back to August 6th, 2004. This movie was made for $65 million and it grossed about 101 domestically.
It's
It
good.
opened
Yeah.
against the Brittany Murphy vehicle, Little Black Book, that was so bad. I'm so sorry because I
Yeah, I
love
haven't
Brittany
even heard of
Murphy.
that.
Oh
So,
my God, it's such a
but
bad movie. And also The Village in M. Night, so that's
you go.
interesting.
Yeah.
Other notable movies in the top 10 were The Bourne Supremacy, which we just
Just
covered.
covered that. Go back and listen
Yep.
to that one and go
Hell
back.
yeah.
Mhm.
The Manchurian Candidate, iRobot, Spider-Man 2, and Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. So it was a pretty stacked box office.
Yeah, I like this list. I haven't seen all of them. I've always wanted to see that Manchurian Candidate just because it's Jonathan Demme.
I'm so
Um,
jealous.
I
It's a
know.
great remake. The original one is also fantastic,
I
but
I
that
have
remake is
hot
pretty
take.
good.
I wasn't crazy about the original. I watched it
Oh,
and
snap.
yeah, I don't know. It was one of those where it had so much hype going into it. I just had too high expectations. But
It's very possible. I think I was mostly surprised with the filmmaking, if I'm honest, but also you gotta love a Frank Sinatra vehicle. Like, I'm there
true.
for it.
I like the concept.
Um,
The concept is dope. I think that
yes,
that's
yes. Yeah, especially in today's political climate. Oh my God.
also, just real quick, Spider-Man 2, one of our earliest episodes. Also, go back and listen to that. It's one of
Yes,
my favorite episodes we ever done personally. I
because it's one of
thought
the best movies
I
of all
thought we
time.
really covered a lot of ground in that one. So, pre our new format, but it's still a really good one. So, and
That's right.
then Harold and Kumar. So they just had their anniversary, obviously, too, 20-year anniversary. So
Wild.
I reposted like one of their posts. I think that Cal Penn put up, and then he liked my repost.
Let's go.
And
Let's
I was like,
go.
oh shit, man, if younger me in high school, watching that shit would have known, that would have been, dude, fucking
Yes.
Kumar liked your shit.
Right? The
um
internet, for all of its mishaps and all of its terrible places, is also the best because you
right.
can connect in that way. Yeah. Oh man, I can't believe it's been 20 years since Harold and Kumar. Like, that's pretty fucking wild.
I also did an episode on that franchise, not on any like podcast, but like when we were on stereo, I did a stereo episode with one of my buddies. And
Yes.
it's just a fun franchise, fun movies. Like I really like revisiting those ones. Like The
So
first
fun.
one for sure, and then around Christmas time, I like the third one. You know, it's
I was
always
gonna
like a
say I
fun.
do I do rewatch the third one every holiday season.
I like
It's perfect.
the waffle bot that is like, yeah, fuck pancakes.
Yes.
There's just
And I
so much
love
stupid shit there.
the long-term arc of NPH across that
Yes,
franchise is just so
so good.
magical. So, so good. But yeah, like this again is another example of when we go back and we start looking at the box office, we see that like the theater was offering you all kinds of things to go and see. Like you could see something that was going to be like action espionage, you could see a psychological thriller, you could see a tech thriller, you could see a comic book movie, and you could have a comedy. Like
I know.
everything was around. I mean, Little Black Book was a rom-com, so they were still making those at that time. It's not good, but it was there if you were in the mood for that type of thing.
Yeah, and then like I like that, some of these guys like, Shyamalan just had a new movie. Like I like that he's still making movies, and
That's right.
I just rewatched Silence of the Lambs, speaking of Jonathan Demme, and yeah, that movie's just all
It's the
time great.
best.
I think you know what it was is because when we did our Long Legs review, when we were talking about that movie a lot, so I just had the itch and I had to scratch it.
You have to. You got to go
Yeah,
back and watch that movie every once in a while. It's just so friggin' good.
it's like having an old friend
Um,
for dinner. It's just like that feeling you get.
it
Yeah.
truly is. It truly, truly is. Oh
Oh
my
my god.
gosh. All right, that brings us to our first segment called Getting the Band Back Together.
I don't have friends. I got family.
In this segment, we take a slow-mo look at the filmmaking choices that went into the film and all of the ass kickers responsible. Movie was written by Stuart Beattie, who also wrote 30 Days of Night. That
Love that.
The Josh Hartnett.
Yes.
Oh my god, I was just talking about that too recently because they posted. This is you're gonna get mad at this. They posted the
Uh-oh.
Rotten Tomatoes score of that movie,
Yeah?
Rotten Critic score, and Rotten Audience score. Isn't that wild?
That's so wrong.
I mean,
How could they have been so
it's not
wrong?
by a lot. It's like 50s. They're both in the 50s, but I'm like, that movie deserves higher for sure.
It
Like,
really does.
that's such a
Whoa, that's
I
so
think
wild.
you know what it might be? I was thinking of like why it might be. I think it's just a dark fucking movie, a nihilistic movie, and
Yeah.
that's my jam, but like
Yeah.
for most people they're probably like, "What the fuck was it?" I wanted to see like a fun vampire movie. It's like, "Nah, bro. 30
Nah, this
Days
is
a Night."
like yeah. Oh, wow. I love that movie, so that
Same.
is sad. But it's okay, right?
Yeah.
To each their own. It lives on in time, and the real ones know it in real time.
And then which one is this? I always struggle with these Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. Is that the
The
first
first
one?
one.
Okay,
Yeah.
love that one. Yeah.
Yeah, same,
Remember seeing that in
same.
the
Really kicked
theater.
it off.
Really great.
Yep. Hell yeah.
And then this one's our first Michael Mann, which is like really exciting. This is like a director I'm a huge fan of. He did Heat last year. He did Ferrari. Have you seen
Mhm.
Ferrari yet? I don't know if we.
I haven't caught it yet, but I do wanna see it.
Um, we'll talk about like a lot of his mannerisms. I didn't mean to do that on purpose. I swear.
You
But
should've, though. It's good.
his mannerisms and his signatures and stuff like that. Ferrari was okay. I my hot take recently. I just caught the Gran Turismo movie on Netflix.
Oh, I actually did wanna see that. It kinda looked like it was fun.
My hot take: that movie's way better racing movie than Ferrari. It was
Oh,
so
that's
good.
so cool.
It
Okay,
was
that's
so
good to
good.
know. Alright, I can get
I
down.
Ferrari was okay, but like it was just I was like I don't want to compare these two, but they literally both have a race at Le Mans, which is like one of the
Hard not
premier
to.
tracks. And so, but dude, it's such a good movie. You got to watch that one.
Nice.
David Harbour, like love him. Love
Same.
Neil Blomkamp directed that one too. So
Okay.
yeah, it was interesting. I was like, I don't know why that flew under the radar, but I was
I
like,
was gonna say, they really, like, pushed it through the box office super quick, and I was like, I was curious about it. I totally missed it.
I like immediately was like, man, I wish I saw this in the theater. Like, damn, because it's all the racing
Certain
scenes were
movies.
so good, and yeah, it was surprisingly like emotional. I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is a good underdog story. Yeah.
Let's go.
Anyways, and then he also worked with Jamie Foxx on Miami Vice. Shortly after this movie, which has gotten like a huge reappraisal
I was gonna say,
from
I bet.
critics. Like people love that. I guess they just screened it, and I saw a bunch of critics like talking about it. I guess Michael Mann was there in L.A.
Oh,
Stuff like that. He goes
nice.
to his movies a lot. So, and then
Of course he does.
lastly, Movie's nominated for 2 Oscars, including Jamie Foxx for supporting actor and 1 for editing. So a lot of that got out of the way. So yeah, I guess we can just start general thoughts on Michael Mann. You a fan? You a fanny B?
I would say I am a Fanny B, but he is an interesting filmmaker to me because he is the kind of filmmaker who does a mood and a vibe that is
Yep.
both either incredibly tense, like has my attention fully, or if I'm even a little bit tired, I can just take a really nice nap to a Michael Mann movie,
That's
which is like
yeah.
not even like no hate. That's not even actually a negative. It's just one of those things where it's like you get so like rolled into and folded into the story and you're so there that like if you don't have the energy to be present with it, you can't quite connect. But I feel like that's actually the strength of it because like when you watch something like Heat or I finally caught Manhunter because that was available to me.
Ooh, what'd you think?
And yeah, like watching that, I was like, oh my God, I just feel like he is lulling me into this like tense ass world. And I was thinking like, man, there's something about how you are both there's a tension here, just like in Collateral, but there's also like I'm not like scared or uncomfortable in that tension. I'm just like, whoa, 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 this
Mhm.
is cool.
Well,
I feel like I'm a part of this.
I figured that you would like it, just from like a psychologist perspective because like he is so deeply interested in like every single character psychology and like
Yes.
Manhunter, like every time it's a very intense film. Like I know what you're saying, where it's just like you are so deep into this guy's mind, this main character's
Yep.
mind, and it's just like
Yep.
if you're not in that mood, it's not one where like, and it's not like Silence of the Lambs where I can just put that on anytime and that sounds weird, but like it's just you're so inside that guy's head and like
Yes.
how he's getting fucked up by the investigation. Like he does such a good job of that in all of his movies.
He really does. Yeah, he does. And even here too, like there's something about how this movie made me, of course, want to rewatch Heat because I was like, God, the LA vibes, like give it to me,
Yeah.
please. But there is just something about how like it feels like it's like the most stylistic fly on the wall type of
Mhm.
filmmaking ever. And it's so unique in that way because I think a lot of directors are looking for that, but it is really hard to do. I don't really know how he gets it done, but he does manage to get it done.
Oh, I watched the special features. We will talk about how he got it done. There's
Let's
some
go.
pretty crazy shit that he did, but yeah, I
Whoa,
mean,
okay.
I agree though. Like I put that as the first thing I wrote down. He's like probably one of my favorite vibes directors. It's like the story might not always be there, but he does a great job of just giving you a very deep vibe and
Yep.
arguably the best LA director. I don't know who else would be in that conversation, but he has a very deep love of the city, and I think that
Yeah.
comes across really strong in Heat and here
Yes.
as well. Um, and then yeah, like, I guess just diving right into some of the filmmaking stuff. Like I remember, I think this might be the first time he ever shot on digital, which
I think I remember that.
yeah, it was a huge deal at the time,
Yep.
and some of the benefits of that, as he was talking about in the special features, because this is a night movie, he wanted you to be able to see, like, faces and, like, the lights in the background, and you just wouldn't get that amount of detail with, film.
Right.
Um,
It's too hard. Yeah.
he also talked about like, again, with the LA of it all, that the street lights, he was like he got real deep into this stuff. He was like, there's a sodium vapor that comes off of the street lights at night because of the humidity, and it created a natural diffuse light that comes across in this. I
Wow.
was like, man, like
He knows
this.
about it.
And so once he said that, though, I'm like, it does make sense. It kind of does have this like orangish glow to
Yeah.
it across the whole thing, which again, I think you can kind of overlook that because it's like a lot of it takes place in a cab, and just like regular street corners and stuff like that. But it's easy to take for granted just like how good everything looks in
Yes.
spite of that.
Right.
Um, Also, he used a lot of murals, tried to again show off LA and its natural environment.
Mhm.
Dude, I was cracking up at Jamie Foxx in the special features. That guy is like one of the best interviews. He was doing like an
He's so
impression.
good.
He was doing an impression of Michael Mann. He was like, "Oh man, like he knew places that I didn't even know about. And I was, he was like, and I was saying, man, you don't know the hood or whatever. He was like, oh, you want to see the hood, Mike, Jamie? I'll take you to the hood. And then Jamie was like, and then we would go into these spots, and he's like, man, lock the door, man. I don't know where the fuck we are.
Yeah, what is going on? Right.
And so he just has this, like, I guess in all of his, he was saying like he's always location scouting. Like even when he's not working, and all of his films, if they don't use a location in the film, I'll save it for the next one that's set in LA, like that type of thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
he's so grounded in his location choices.
yeah, did you think it was like a good, you're in LA, so I kind of want to get your perspective. Do you think it was like a good depiction of LA, like accurate?
Yes. Yeah, like
Yeah.
every once in a while when I'm watching a movie shot in LA and they like are tracking someone, I'm like, okay, so you just did a loop. You just did a full
Yeah.
loop because I know exactly where you are.
Yep.
But there is one of those things where it's sort of like he is helping you understand like how quickly you can be in downtown LA and then how quickly you can be in West Hollywood, how quickly you can be in all these places, especially at night when there isn't a lot of people driving, except for like in between like 2:30 a.m. and 5. It gets really busy because everyone's going home. And then there's like a brief break before it gets busy again at like 6 a.m. So it is kind of like the city feels a lot bigger than it actually kind of is when you have the freedom to drive at night. And I do feel like he really captured that vibe when he was making this movie. And also I was just like left and right looking up all the complexes and being like, oh shit, that's like right down from one of my old apartments. Let's go. Like definitely always want to look for where those locations are too, and then like try to go see them whenever I have some free time because
Right.
it is amazing how like you can live in LA for 20 plus years or something and there's still so much more to discover, which I love about LA.
Yeah, I was like listening to the rewatchables on it, and that was like the big thing that they talked about because they're in LA as well. That
Yep.
just like when you first move there, you're not gonna cover the terrain in like years. It would take you years to like. There's still so much that like you don't know, you've never been to or whatever. So and I guess he was like covering a lot of ground, and like he was like combining locations and stuff like that, which I like. I'm not from there, but I thought he did a good job of like everything feels like it's in one place.
Yes.
It feels like where it's supposed to be. Um, I guess I was gonna ask you too, like about like for the night scene. I guess the only thing I was like, is it ever that dead in LA though? Like at night, you know what I mean? Like,
Especially downtown.
you know what I mean?
Especially downtown. It depends on like the certain kind of little pocket neighborhoods because like
Okay,
there's a little arts district, like there are a couple little areas where like it's like one or two streets, but like especially near all those city buildings like police station and the courts and shit like that. Like they're right kind of over near like Disney Concert Hall and stuff. And it is quiet AF over there
oh, okay.
after like 4 p.m. It's so weird how dead it can feel
Which is like when
downtown.
this movie like starts. So I guess that's
Yes.
good job of that.
It's, like, kind of turning over. They're really trying to be like, "Guys, let's all move to
Nightlife,
downtown
yeah,
LA," but, like, no one wants to do it because it's first of all, it's, like, pretty compact, it's kind of
yep,
small,
dense,
and it doesn't have the, like, same character that everyone really wants, which is, like, that sprawling LA where, like, you can be in the valley or you can be in the hills. Like, they don't really want city, and there's,
yeah.
like, barely any there's, like, mostly just, like, new builds down there that are like luxury buildings, but like it's really dangerous. So no one is willing to pay for a
Yeah.
luxury building in an area that's like still so shitty.
Yeah, or you could run into Tom Cruise on the street, you don't want that.
That's right. Yeah. Or like those dudes that try to rob him when he's asking for
Yeah.
help. Like that's exactly right. That's why I wouldn't talk to anybody. I wouldn't be
Exactly.
asking any strangers for help. Like, no way.
Yeah, you get like a lot. I like the difference too. Like you get the skyline and shots. You get like alleys, murals. Like it's never like repetitive either, which I like.
Right.
I feel like some movies. It's like even if they're set in LA, you don't really get a sense of a character of a place. I guess
Right.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
Man
That's a
does.
good point. He really, like how filmmakers will make New York City a character in their movies. Michael Mann is really trying to make Los Angeles a character in
Yeah.
his.
I guess the one other part I was cracking up, Jamie Foxx was saying that like he loves to do a lot of takes, which a lot of the greats do. David Fincher,
Of course.
Stanley Kubrick. So he was like, I was always looking for his thumbs. You knew you can move on if you got one of these. You can move on. And then
Wow.
I liked Mark Ruffalo's quote. He said that like there's a scene where he's just on the phone talking to himself or whatever, and like after the 70th take he's like, you just start to lose your shit a little bit. Like, what am I doing wrong? Like, what else can I bring to this or whatever? But
Yeah,
there's different philosophies on it. You know, some people think it's like overkill. I guess like the Fincher and Kubrick justification for it is like there's little nuances in different takes that you can kind
that's
of
what I was
piece
thinking.
together, and you like stop acting, like you forget. But I
Yep.
mean, like you can listen. It's just funny to me, like Jake Gyllenhaal, all of his quotes, like about how he lost his mind on Zodiac for real because of all the
Y-
stuff.
So
And
many
Robert
takes.
Downey Jr. especially.
Yep, yep.
Oh
Yeah, I
god.
guess, like, that's exactly what I was thinking too, was, like, man really likes to just kinda watch, and he's looking for,
Mhm.
like, serendipitous human moments, and that's definitely what, Kubrick and Fincher are after too. They just are a little bit more, like, methodological about it, and I do feel like Mann is sort of like, "I've started the camera before I told you, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
close it before I've told you." Like, I'm just trying to, like, capture something here, and I want it to be authentic. But I do feel like he at least doesn't have a reputation for, like, for also trying to, like, fuck around with the actors to get something out of
Mhm.
them the way that, like, Kubrick really tried to fuck with people to get something out of them. I do feel more
Yeah.
sort of like he's like, "Just one more time. I just wanna keep
He
seeing
is
this
similar to
until it
Fincher in
feels."
that way, not even just that style too, but like all of his films have pretty much had like a reappraisal, I feel like. And
Yeah.
I'm sure the Ferrari reappraisal is just years away, you know, because that
Oh,
got
yeah.
like kind of mixed reviews. And like Black Hat, which was like, you know, known as one of his first like fails,
That's
has
right.
been getting
I forgot he did
reappraisals,
that.
and they just released a like a director's cut of it that I was going to get, but it sold out last time. I think it's on sale again, but I'll have to
Yeah.
report back.
It's
Um,
interesting with, like, these auteurs is that, like, they kind of almost always need a reappraisal because we want them to do something. We always want them to not do what we know they're gonna do. It's like, we know he's gonna bring, like, a world building kind of element. He's gonna do inserts and soft focus and quick cuts, and he is gonna be, like, building attention in an interesting way. There's
mhm,
gonna be a kinda grain to it. He's gonna use darkness and shadows in certain ways, and it's just, like, always surprising to me that in real time, people are like, "Oh, how self-indulgent." And it's like,
uh,
this is what an artist does. They make the picture the way they see it. I don't know why
I mean,
you
I
come here
that's
expecting
why
something
it's just
else.
like an author, you know, you get used to their style of writing, and so like I think of it the same way. It's like I watch a Paul Schrader film, I know there's going to be a lonely protagonist who's journaling at some point in it. Like I just know that's what's going to happen,
Exactly.
and it's reliable and it's good, and you know some I like more than others, but like that's just his style. And so, man, you know, there's going to be a person that's good at their job, like
Yep.
very good. So you got that with the Vincent role and Tom Cruise, and they
Mhm.
come sort of face to face with like a foil that, like, you know, they have maybe opposing beliefs, like philosophical beliefs, or they're on
Right.
opposing sides of the law, like heat. Like there's always going to be that tension, and he really likes that.
Yes.
And so that's in here too with Jamie Foxx and Tom Cruise mainly.
And
That's
there's
in
always something about how, like, they are opposites, but also the same. He really
yes.
loves to have his characters be almost the complete opposite, but actually very similar, like, in interesting ways.
Hmm.
And that I think is particularly interesting in this because it's sort of like he is really good. Tom Cruise is really good at what he does, but so is Jamie Foxx. But he doesn't want to be, and I don't know that Tom Cruise wants to be either. I think he just wants to get it over with.
I
So
know.
it's like a subtlety, the similarity that they have in this story, which I think, like, does actually make the writing in this one really, really good.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about that too. I like the script a lot. Like, I think it's really smart.
Yep,
I always like an ordinary person put in an extraordinary circumstance. So that's
totally.
like the Jamie Foxx, you know,
Yes.
role. And I think he does a great job of that. And then Tom Cruise, you don't see him as a villain ever.
Never.
So like I this is just like such a unique film in that he plays the bad guy, and there's like a darkness to it which you don't normally get
And
in
he's
any
so
other
good at
Tom
it
Cruise
too.
movie. And he's super good at it. We'll talk about it in a second. And then just one night movies. I like movies that just take place in one day or one night.
Totally.
This falls in that category. It makes everything feel like a lot more compressed and rushed, and like it just there's like kind of an internal stakes to it. Um,
Yeah.
and lastly, what I like about the script is this like kind of theme of like coincidences, like fate, you know, like
Yes.
I think because like I saw some reviews kind of like not going like crazy about like, oh, the cops let them go after they stopped them the first time or whatever. And it's just like, but that's one of the themes of the movie, you know, it's like Jamie Foxx almost doesn't pick up Tom Cruise. And then he's like, wait,
Yep.
hold on. Yeah, I'll take you. And it's like all those random people that we meet that we don't know are going to have an impact on our lives, but they do.
Yes.
Like,
Yep.
I just always like that in stories too. So, the fact that he picks up Tom Cruise and he gets a look inside of his own. Why have I been driving cabs for 12 years and not doing this business plan that I've always had, And
Mm-hmm.
maybe I wouldn't have called this lawyer lady that gave me her number if it wasn't for Tom Cruise making me at gunpoint.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. There's an interesting argument about perfectionism that's happening for all the
yeah,
characters. Like Jamie Foxx wants to be
has
perfect.
to
That's
be
part of
perfect.
why he
Yeah,
hasn't made the choice. Tom Cruise wants to execute perfectly. Even Jada wants to execute perfectly. Mark Ruffalo is trying to do the right thing. Like there is something interesting about how everyone here is just trying to do it the right way, but they're all, of course, at odds with each other.
yeah. So yeah, let's talk about some of these performances in our next segment called Choose Your Fighter.
Welcome to the party, pal.
This is where we'll take a look at the bros and babes that flex their acting muscles and sometimes their real muscles for us movie buffs. This film stars Jamie Foxx, Mark Ruffalo, Jada Pinkett Smith, Peter Berg is there for a hot second,
Yep.
Javier Bardem, even Statham shows up, and of course, Tom Cruise.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Tom Cruise is a silver fox. I love that.
Can't
I
forget
think that's
about it.
another mannerism that people don't really talk about. You got Ferrari, you got Adam Driver being a silver fox, you got Robert
Yeah.
De Niro in Heat being a silver
Yep.
fox. He loves a silver fox.
He also loves a goatee. He's always got to have somebody in the cast with a goatee.
Yeah, beard. Tom Cruise got a beard in here. You never see him with that either. So yeah, he really wanted Tom Cruise to have that darker side. That's why he cast him. I thought, speaking of some of the craziness, we'll talk about what a lot of these actors had to go through.
Okay. Okay.
Tom Cruise spent 2 to 3 months developing the character of Vincent with Mann.
Let's go.
And they drew up a whole backstory for this character that's not even in the film.
That's some classic theater school action right there.
For example, he grew up in Gary, Indiana. He was born in Gary, Indiana,
Oh.
and his mother died during childbirth. So
that's a hard one to outlive.
I know.
Absolutely.
So I guess it's like one of those things where it's just like for Tom Cruise, it's just like, in every scene, this is what you're dealing with type of thing. Which I think does come across like, he talked a lot about like, especially in that hospital scene with Jamie Foxx's mom.
Yes.
And like he buys her flowers. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense why they wrote that kind of in there. Why he would be nice to this one character in the movie when all the other times, aside from Jamie Foxx, he's like a complete asshole, pretty much.
Yeah, total sociopath.
He also worked for 3 months with an ex-British special service officer.
Oh.
So he would know how to use live ammo. They would shoot live ammo together, all the choreography. And
okay, yeah, this is early in his mission work, so he's still building out his like repertoire of like action skills.
I definitely noticed that. Like before I even watched the special features, I wrote that in my notes. Like all this his choreography especially looks so fucking clean. Like he looks like an officer. Like when he's like putting his holster and like aiming at people, it looks so
double
real.
tapping.
Yes. So I just love that. I think they created this like Grim Reaper character, this Terminator character.
Yes.
He doesn't have any remorse for anything he's doing, and he chops it up to fate, like we're talking about. Like shit just happens. They're in the wrong place at the wrong time. Man describes it as this glib nihilism. I thought that was like a perfect quote from him.
Yeah.
And kind of mixed with these moments of sincerity where you're not sure if there's something under the surface, which I like when he kills the jazz player and he like holds his face from hitting the table. You didn't have to do that. Why did he do that?
Yeah, there is like there's a human underneath this, which is like a really hard thing to do unless you are a capital A actor and gonna like do the work to build that.
And the last one, the most random feature on the whole thing, it was like only 2 minutes. He sent Tom Cruise to be a FedEx guy and deliver a package into a random restaurant.
That's so random. Why? What?
He said because of his hitman spycraft skills, he wanted him to blend in to a place where he wouldn't be recognized as Tom Cruise. And it worked. He said like he like sat down and had coffee with somebody he didn't know he was Tom Cruise.
Wow. Oh man, I miss when movie making was more like this. when it was
Yes.
less like, "Oh, let's do this Vanity Fair Google search interview. We'll
I
laugh
know.
about
Oh,
it." And it was
yeah.
more like, "Let me send you to do this, like, acting exercise. Let me really value your contribution as, like, an artist too." And I do think that's something else I love about this is, like, every actor in this is like he's like a real actor. It's still on the edge of that window of time when everybody is serious about
Oh,
this and
yeah.
artists and stuff. They're not like influencers, they're not coming from social media or something yet. Like they're trained or they have a lot of experience working with big directors and they take it seriously.
I mean, even smaller characters. Jada's on the special features, and she says that
God, she's
they
a queen.
she said this was the most thorough audition process I've had in years. That it took like 90 minutes for them to audition,
Wow.
and she spent a day with a prosecutor to get her character right.
Let's go.
And this was the one thought was the most wild. She spent a day with a couple that would have been her parents in the movie or something like that. They were
Oh, like to
so
really build out that backstory the way Tom
yes.
Cruise did. Oh my gosh. Wow.
So
Wow.
she only has like she's only at the beginning and the very end pretty much. And she even got this like level of training that
It
you would
shows.
normally not get. And
It
she's great.
shows.
She's great. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, she has a kind of soft subtleness to her, like that is not usually the character she plays because she usually plays like really strong women who, take no shit and who
Mhm.
are kind of like action adjacent. And there's something about how like she is doing that in character here, but she doesn't have to use her body to accomplish that mission. Like she can be scared with Jamie Foxx, and I still don't imagine her as weak because I know that she's like knows how to be strong. She just knows how to be strong as a lawyer, right? Not as like an
Yeah.
action star.
Exactly. And I think to the multiple takes thing, like she said, that really helped when it just came down to little stuff like how would you wear your hair? Would you wear a skirt or pants? Like
Ugh,
she's running in heels at
that's
the end,
so
which
real.
you
I
know?
had such an annoying teacher in my undergrad was in theater, and I had this annoying teacher that like made us dress up from like the first day we got scenes. It was so
Yeah.
fucking annoying. But in retrospect, I'm like, okay, I
Did you
understand
see
the exercise.
did you see Theater Camp? That movie that came out?
I love theater camp.
Oh my
Oh
I
man,
love
that's so accurate. It's so accurate.
there's one scene with Platt where at the end when she asks for help with the audition or whatever, and he's like, "What was your first dog's name?" or whatever, and she's like, "What?" And he's like, "Oh,
Yes.
we have so much work to do."
Oh my god,
It's
yes, exactly. Like,
it's so much.
that's so
Yeah,
true about, like, people who are really serious about acting or theater or whatever, and it
yeah.
shows, right? Like, even if you're only gonna have 1 or 2 scenes, like, it shows if you are really bringing something to life versus just kinda, like, delivering lines with a tone, you know?
And I think in the same way that Tom Cruise is playing against type, Jamie Foxx is also playing against type, like as this like
Yes.
stumbling, stammering
Yeah,
cab
nervous.
driver,
Mhm.
which I thought he did a great job on for his training. Because again, everyone had to do training on this if
Let's
it's a Michael
go.
Mann movie. He drove a Crown Vic, and he was like in a full like race car outfit, to do those car stunts because he wanted him to get comfortable driving in a car
Wow.
for that amount of time.
Mhm.
He also interviewed real cab drivers, so he would get those little mannerisms of like how would they keep their cab clean and like how seriously they take their jobs as cabbies. Um,
Right.
so yeah, he said he met this guy who was like doing it like he was like giving him all these like, oh, you got to watch out for those guys on the road, like just like little things that he would like use.
Yeah,
Um,
authenticity.
and I thought one of the best scenes of his performances was like when he gets to use his like great impression work in the scene where he acts as Vincent. I love
Yes.
that scene so much. Like
Yep.
where because it's a subtle transformation because he first gets in there and he's still the scrawny guy, like I'm Vincent,
Yeah, I'm
like not
nervous.
really
Mhm.
sure. And then he sits down with Javier Bardem, and then he's like, "You better tell that guy to put his gun away before I beat his bitch ass with it." And you're like, "Whoa!"
Yes, and that's what I mean when I say it's like the subtlety of how all of these characters are always the same, even though they're different. Is
Yeah.
that like the only thing that's different between him and Vincent is Vincent embraces his confidence, and Jamie Foxx is still trying to like find the right way to embrace his confidence rather than just embrace it. And in this
Mhm.
moment when like his life depends on it, he has to just embrace it, and it works. It works.
Yeah, Javier Bardem's also great in that scene,
So
kills
good. Love
it
when he
with the I
shows
love
up.
the story of Black Peter, Pedro Negro. I love that whole scene. It was so good. I thought the
Yes.
only one I didn't love, and I hate to say it because this is a Wisconsin guy, I
Okay.
ride for. I thought Mark Ruffalo might have been miscast. I'm sorry. I
I thought
just
he was for sure underused,
definitely
like
underused too.
underused.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting to think of him as miscast because it's true. He doesn't always play, yeah, he doesn't always play cops
Like an
like this.
undercover he plays a cop. He plays, like, these good guys, these journalists, these
Yeah.
cops, like, that type of thing, but an undercover with, like, tatted
Yeah,
up
like,
and, like, when he
yeah,
was, like,
being
speaking
like a,
Spanish, I was like, "Ah, I'm not buying this.
I
This
know. I was
isn't
like, "Oh, this is some leftover, like, before Me Too stuff where people could, like when
brown
people could
face
still
it,"
pretend
and
to, like, be,"
yeah.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, I did think that, like, he was a little underutilized, and that did not give him really the opportunity to shine too much, but I can't lie, the goatee was so funny, and the slick black hair, like, the look was hilarious to me.
It was funny, and I don't know, I just thought maybe they could've it just felt like a different movie, like, as soon as he came in, what I
Yeah.
took away from, like, the thrillerness of just these 2 guys
Yeah.
that I kinda
Totally.
didn't love. Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
he couldn't quite fit into the picture there the way that, like, Javier did, because I feel like when you go into that scene, you're like, "Oh, this
yeah,
guy
Javier's
is the
perfect.
big bad." Mhm.
Yeah. Any other performances you wanna talk about? I think that was all the ones that I had,
No, yeah, I think, like, the little flashes of Peter Berg sort of being there was interesting. I think he
right?
too was,
When he
like,
was still
very
acting.
underused and maybe even miscast just because him being like, yeah, him being like one of the cops that is maybe in charge or something. I was like, "No, that's not right. He doesn't do that." Um, and Statham just, like, having a single scene. I was like, "Get the fuck out.
I
Really?
know,
You
it's
just show up for this
crazy.
one day at
Because
work?
I'm
Damn."
thinking of the timeline, I'm like, he had already done Transporter at this point, you know what I
I
mean? Like,
guess,
he was
yeah.
leading movies, right? Like,
Yeah, so it
I
must have
don't
just been that he was like, "This is all I have for you, bro. If you wanna come
yeah.
and, be on set, please, but this is all I got." I
You can
almost feel
say you
like,
worked with Michael Mann on your resume, I don't know, like
good for him. Listen, if that's
Yeah.
all that they've got and you gotta take it. But yeah, just again, like, similar to how Michelle Monaghan had, like, the smallest part in
Oh
Born
my god, that was
Supremacy,
crazy, yeah.
just seeing some of these huge actors be like, "Here's my single line, see ya,"
Yep.
is amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, cool, cool. That brings us to our next segment called The Need for Speed.
Pain don't hurt.
In this segment, we do what the Oscars don't and honor the amazing stuntmen and women for their death-defying work and pick out the punch that knocked us out the most. What do you got, Shenny B?
All right, I got a couple here. I
Yeah,
think, I guess like I decided to go with a sequence as my like main
I think you
winner.
have to. You have
Right,
to. Yeah,
right, because that's where like a bunch of stunts really start stacking up. But I really did think flipping the taxi downtown was pretty dope. I love when they for
definitely.
reals flip a car. Like, it's thrilling and exciting, and it looked great on the streets. Um, I liked when he was smashing up the DA's office and shooting Tom Cruise in the air. I was like, "Oh, let's
Yeah.
go. Like, this is a lot of fun. Glass everywhere.
No,
I
it's
love
just
glass
funny too,
everywhere."
though, like, the where he's like, "What are you gonna do about it?" Or whatever, and immediately,
Yes.
boom, like, fucking shoots him in the ear.
That's what I'm gonna
Yeah.
do about it. That's right,
Yeah.
that's right. But yeah, I think the big winner for me was just, like, that club sequence has so many kind of, like, fight sequences and stunts. He's like Tom Cruise is, like, killing a bunch of henchmen. There's people running everywhere, people getting shot, like, Tom Cruise staying so fucking cool throughout it regardless. Like, I think that's also the biggest takeaway. And then just, how Jamie Foxx, when he can't quite get away from him, he just sort of like scratches some cars with his cab, being like, "If I have to keep going, I guess I'll fucking
Yeah.
crash into these." But it's just such a great scene, and also the stunt work in it looks so good because I have to imagine it must have taken days to shoot that sequence.
Jamie had, like, a funny story about that part too, where, like, where he's supposed to just scratch the cars, and I guess, like, when they did the take, he, like, just head on hit the back of one of the cars. And he said that,
Awesome.
like, they called cut, and he was just like, he's like, I'm okay," and he said everyone's rushing like, Tom, are you alright?" Like,
Of course, of course. Tom, Tom.
"There's $1 billion in the back seat, and, like, no one gives a fuck about me."
Oh my god, that's so good. Of course, of course.
He is just dude, I could watch him do interviews all the one with him and
So
Denzel, I
charismatic.
know we brought it up before, but that's like I watch that on a bad day and it just like will brighten my mood.
He's the
It's so
best.
good.
Yeah, he's so charismatic. He's such a joy to watch, and that's also what makes this character such an exciting like, turn for him.
Yeah, for mine, I had to put at number 3 the foot chase in the hospital because if there's a Tom Cruise movie, there's gonna be some running in it. I don't
Yes.
care what it is, you're gonna see him perfect form for a runner. Jamie Foxx, not as much, but I also thought that fit his character. He would not be the best runner. You know what I
That's
mean?
right. Yep, totally.
And that's when you get like him throwing the briefcase and like that really intense close up when they're on the ground, and he's like, "You're fucking up my whole shit." Like,
Yes.
number two, just because this is kind of a kill, but didn't make my top in the other ones. I thought I'd mention it here. The fall off of the fat guy El Gordo from the 3-story window.
Yep.
I just love that they used the dummy because you don't normally get that anymore, and so
That's true.
they show on the special features like how they rigged that like to get the perfect angle. It would fall on the taxi cab, and then like the camera like crash zooms into the top of the cab too. Like it felt like really like purposeful the way they did it. So I really like that.
Love it.
And then number one, I had the car flip just because dope car flip. They wanted it to flip with the wheels facing up, which they said was like a challenge. Like normally when cars roll over, if they flip on, they're
They go all the
designed to
way.
build on the wheels.
Yep.
But it seemed like they got it like right away. Like when it didn't show them like doing it multiple times. It felt like they were like one and done on that one.
Nice.
And then what I thought was interesting too is that Man wanted continuity, so he like asked the people to reuse the crashed car from that to like when they're coming out of it afterwards. So
Yeah.
they had to like make like minor adjustments so it wouldn't like crush Jamie Foxx and Tom Cruise.
Right. So it can be safe, right?
But again, just the purposefulness of every single stunt and thing
So
like that.
important.
And a lot of the stunt guys said they really liked that stunt too because it was like an emotionally driven stunt. That's where Jamie Foxx starts to get some
Yeah.
of his courage built up. I don't give a fuck. Maybe you're right. Maybe nothing in this world matters.
That's
And I'm
right.
just gonna speed into this, and we'll see what happens. I'll roll the
Yeah.
dice.
Like if you're going to kill me, I'm going to try to go out on my own terms in some way.
Yeah. Which brings us to our next segment called Death Proof.
If he dies, he dies.
Yes. This is where we take a look at the movie's body count and see who bit the dust the hardest. All right. What are your kills?
So just missing the cut. I just had the final shootout between Jamie and Tom Cruise.
It's a good
It
one.
was good, but not in my top three.
Okay.
Number three, I had the muggers. I love that scene, where
Yes.
Tom Cruise just rolls up, "Yo, homie, is that my
Dude.
briefcase?"
Yes. Yes. Especially because they're like neo-Nazi racists. So
Yeah.
it's like great that he calls them homie. That's
And
the
then
best
they
shit.
immediately try and check him, and that's when you see like the training kick in, like, and that's what I mean, like with Terminator, where it's just like he's
Yes.
this smooth looking guy, just unassuming, rich old guy, and then it kicks in, two in the chest, one in that dome,
Yeah. And he
like,
has that like serious look on his face too.
and then just grabs the suitcase and just acts like nothing ever happened. Just great performance. Number two, I had the jazz club, just because like you think like that's a break from all the action and the murder going on. It's like, oh, this guy likes jazz. Like that's kind of a redeeming quality. He's got good taste in
Yeah.
music.
Right.
And then he brings up Cartagena, and you're like, oh shit,
Uh-oh.
this guy's done for.
Especially the look on the other actor's face when
Yeah.
he realizes what's happening,
Oh
how he
yeah.
like goes from so relaxed to like his face like completely changes. It's so good.
I know. And then he gives him kind of a trivia question, which is kind of a trick question. It was kind of, I don't know. But that was such a good scene. And like I already talked about how he like held his face from hitting, and he has like a moment. He like stays there, like,
It's sort of like he doesn't want to disrespect this guy, but that doesn't mean he can let him live. So he would,
right.
he prefers to give him a little hope before he kills him so that he doesn't
Yeah.
see it coming. And then, of course, he doesn't let him just like smash onto the table. But that's the
Yeah.
most respect you're going to get out of this contract killer.
And they
you
kind of
know?
have that argument in the car where it's just like, why are you feeling this way for a guy you never met? Like, and all these
Mhm.
Rwandans died. Did you join the Green Peace? Like, the Peace
Yes.
Corps. And then number one, I had the nightclub scene.
So
Which
good.
you had as your number one. A lot of killing in there too. I thought it could work here too. But yeah, like he stabs the guy in the leg, kicks the guy's leg out, and then he gets his target, and all the commotion. But
Yeah, he stays in there.
yeah, it's like he's laser focused on this guy. Like, I see my target. And that's when I say the Terminator, I mean that's the first John Connor. When Terminator's about to kill Sarah in the club, it's very similar how they
Yes.
shot that. I thought. What about you?
Well, I also notably had to identify the racist muggers because it set such a
Yeah.
good tone for like, oh shit, this is who this guy really is. I like the death of the bad luck, like the guy falling on the car. That's just such a great like first
Yeah.
death to take place here because it seems like, oh, maybe this isn't super methodical. Maybe like this is like gonna be a little bit of a comedy of errors, like where there'll be action, but it will be a little bit like happenstance in a way, and that's again why like the next sequence with the muggers is so important because it's like, no, that accident was a little bit of misfortune, but this guy does not make mistakes.
Yeah,
You
and you
know what
get
I
that
mean?
first that's where Jamie Foxx puts together, like, what's going on, like, that he's
Yes.
driving a murder, and, like, they did show, like, a rehearsal between Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx with that scene, and
Uh-huh.
I thought it was interesting, like, early on, I thought Jamie Foxx was doing, like, more stammering and stuttering than what's in the actual final cut of the
What
movie,
ends up being there.
I
Okay.
wonder, like, maybe he just had to work through that just to get the kinda mannerisms down,
Yeah,
but I thought what he did in the movie, like, worked fantastic, like,
totally.
that was the right
Yeah, because you
choice.
don't want him to be like completely bumbling. Like he's
Yeah,
smooth. He has this clean cab. He is driven. He has a plan and everything. He just is not necessarily confident in follow through. And
yeah.
that isn't exactly stammering,
No,
right? Like it
definitely.
may be, but that's almost like again, the capital A actor doesn't play an action. They play
I
an
almost wanna
emotion.
say Tom Cruise had a line too in it where he's like, "Do you always stutter this much?" or something like that, and that's not in the final cut either, so maybe they just all around, they just
Yeah, they
shied
were
away
like,
from that.
"Stuttering is cheap."
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
so sorry for saying that, anybody that struggles with a stutter. But especially, like,
Yeah.
when it's just a ploy in a
When
movie, I
it's
feel
used in a
like
movie,
yeah,
that's what we're talking about, yeah.
that's just acting, that's just, like, cheating, basically, as an actor.
Yep.
But I also like the jazz club hit, but I think the most, shocking killing to me that stands out is when they're coming out of the club
Oh,
and
yeah.
Ruffalo believes him, and it's just like, "Pop!"
Yeah,
He's just gone. Like, you don't even see it actually happen, but you know
yeah.
it's happened, and Tom Cruise is like, "What? Get in the car." Like, even it's just such a good, shocking death because you're thinking, "Okay, maybe there will be this other layer to the story that's gonna take place now," and it's just very quickly
Nope.
they're like, "Nope,
All the
it's
hope.
not."
And I
Yeah.
like that I also like the it's not a kill, but, like, that lead investigator who just comes in like, "That's Vincent, Jamie Foxx is Vincent," or whatever. He
Yep.
gets hit in the leg and, like, they, like, show, like, the blood, like, spurting out, like, it was
Yeah, it's a
gnarly.
legit squib. Mhm.
Yeah. So I really like that, like, part 2 of it.
Yeah, they make you think that maybe the FBI is going to become a part of this story, and then nice and easily are like, "No, the FBI, like, can't even hang with this either. That's
No.
how smooth this dude is. That's why the only person that can actually take him down is someone who's not trying to, but has to," you
Mhm.
know?
Who was, like, gotten to know him for a couple hours and knows how he thinks a little bit. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Yes, yes. Alright, that takes us to our next segment called Exit Wounds.
Come on, don't bullshit me.
This is where we talk about the film's imperfections, decide whether they're fatal hits or just minor flesh wounds. What do you got, Shane B?
I didn't really have that many because I was sort of like I've suspended a lot to just be
Yeah.
a part of this, like I don't know how no one really shows up when a lot of this murder stuff is taking place. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how he could ever really get out of the club. I don't know how they didn't get pulled over again. If one cop pulled them over for having a shitty car, they should have. I was like, why don't they just steal a different car? Like that could
Yeah.
probably save them time. So just like some basic stuff, but for the most part, I was like, I also don't really care. It's like one night. Cops are really overworked in LA, so I'm sure that that's not too far off base.
Right.
What about you?
Yeah, I kinda had that too of, like, I just wanted to kind of litigate, is Vincent good at his job, do we think? Because seems like he makes some kind of mistakes that and wind up him getting dead, like, I play
Mm,
this game Hitman, and the whole point of it is you kill people, but you have to, like, get away is, like, kind
right.
of the secondary goal,
Okay.
and he doesn't seem very concerned with the getting away part. He just seems to,
Right.
like, just wanna just, like, for in the Hitman game, if it was that guy in the club, it would be like, wait for him to go to the bathroom, like that type of
Yes.
thing. You know what I mean? Like, be smart about it. You don't want to kill him in the open. Everyone's gonna freak out and like come rushing at you. So I don't know. Um, and then do we think he's gonna kill Max? That was kind of what I was wondering too, because they bring up that story.
Right.
Ruffalo does,
That's what I
and
was thinking.
so they kind of leave it like, maybe he likes Max a little bit. I don't know, but he also takes Max to the hospital for his mom. It's like, did he have to do that?
Yeah. Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I almost feel like this is a story about, like, where he's kind of tired of doing this shit. He's like not
Yeah.
really in the mood to do it. When he picks him up, he's like, I hate LA. The second I get here, I just want to leave. Like, he's no longer in the mood to do this work per se. That's probably why he over plans. But I feel like that's also why he maybe stopped being so thoughtful about it. Because I do
Yeah,
feel
maybe
like
that's
by
a
the
good
time they
point.
get to the club, he's like, God, enough of this shit. I'm just gonna kill these motherfuckers so I can get the
Yeah.
hell out of here.
He's definitely frustrated at that point. That's a good point. Then like the other two I just had is like he kills the power in the building at the end, but they take the elevator still. I'm not sure if like elevators have like their own
I don't think so.
system or I don't know.
I don't think so.
So I was like, are they really gonna run up 16 flights of stairs or whatever? But I guess
Shit, seriously.
Tom Cruise could do it if there's anyone who could do it.
That's
And
true.
then the CGI in the train at the end I thought was a little rough. Like Mann talks about why he wanted to do that so he could have like specific
Meh.
scapes and stuff behind them, but I just thought you could see the green-ish outlines on
It's
their
too
face,
early
and
on digital, so it's hard to.
yeah. So I thought, and I was like, it was a bummer because Tom Cruise death scene, spoiler alert, it was like not as effective for me because of that, which was
Yeah, because it was
kind
a
of a shame.
little overproduced or something.
Yeah,
But I do like how, like again, to go back to the writing just one more time. I love how Tom Cruise basically is like, if somebody died on the metro, no
yeah.
one would
He
even notice.
he brings up that story again, calls back to
Exactly.
it, and it's
Yep.
like, kind of talking about himself, like, does anyone even know I exist?
It's true.
Which
Yeah.
The Killer, I thought Fincher's movie from last year does a kind of a similar
Yep.
tone to it, which I
Yeah.
recommend that one too.
Yeah, also just a quick note about the MTA that takes place in Los Angeles. It's so incredibly clean, but literally no one uses it. It's like
Really?
I mean, people use it, but it's like one of those things where like not to the point where like there's like an older woman that's like on the train that they walk past and like, there's no way that woman is on the train at this time of night. No one
Okay.
is on the train at this time.
Good
Like
to
they
know.
use
Good
it
to
for
know.
really specific things. But I remember when I first moved to LA, I came from New York where all I did was use public
Right.
transportation.
Subway.
So I was like, oh, okay, I'm trying to figure out like how I take the subway. I know it's like a little less and you have to use more buses here and most people drive. But I just remember being like, my God, it's beautiful in here. How is it so clean? Like, how
Yeah.
the fuck is it so clean? And then people are like, oh, no one really takes it. Like some people do. They're trying to get people to take it more. And maybe today they do, but it really is a city of people who are mostly driving, which is why I think Tom Cruise makes the point that like this is a packed ass city. Like we're on top of each other, but we all are in our own car. So we're not actually interfacing with one another. And that's why he's totally right about the metro.
Yeah. And I hope Jamie Foxx got out of the cab business after this. Like, I really hope he starts his luxury limo business. That sounds pretty cool. I would ride one of those.
It sounds pretty
So
cool, but it's right before rideshare explodes.
I
So it's
know.
also not the best timing, but that's okay. In this world, I agree. I hope he does get to start that business.
Definitely.
All right. That brings us to our last segment. Game over, man.
What a picture.
Good picture, yeah.
That is so much fun. I love that stuff, the killing.
A lot of killing.
And finally, this is where we rate the film out of 5 cabs. I'm gonna go 4. I think Heat might be my favorite Man. I don't think anything's gonna top that.
Totally.
But this is one that's very solid. I'm not fully bought into the Miami Vice hype. I
Same.
think this is better than that. And for all the reasons we mentioned, the action, clean, the performances, the coverage of LA, all that stuff. What about you?
Same. Yeah, I think I'm going 3.5 for pretty much the same reason. This just isn't my favorite Michael Mann movie, but it was a great rewatch. It was good to just revisit and to like be reminded again of like how exciting it is when an auteur has a style that you know how to check right into, that you know how to ride with. And again, like you just can't, no one can top the fact that Tom Cruise never plays a bad guy and he does it so
Never.
well here.
Only
So
thing I
well
could
here.
think of was like Magnolia, but he's still kind of redeemed in
Yeah,
that.
he just kind of plays
you know?
like a dick,
Yeah. And we didn't even bring up I do want to mention the one scene with the coyotes. That was fucking amazing part. Like
Yes.
just that's something Man saw randomly on the street and put it in there, and they got the Audio Slave needle drop to it.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it has so many things that I like. It's perfectly entertaining, and I think I will revisit it like more and more going forward. I just don't. It was hard for me to like kind of score it high because I don't get the same feels that like the second I am watching Heat, I'm like, like glued right to the TV right away. But I did like this one a lot, and I'm glad that we covered it. And it's just crazy that it was 20 years ago. It's also pretty wild.
Definitely. All right, I think that about wraps it up for us. Let's remind people where they can find us.
All right. Get your fix and follow the show at We Stay Buff on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and on Twitch at The Buffs. And you can follow me at Shani B on all the socials. Or it's me, Shani B, on all the socials.
And then so you never miss a rep, subscribe to the podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Please leave a positive review, 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. Follow me on all the socials at misfit_minded and on my website at misfitminded.com.
Okay. Yes. Next week we'll be revisiting Live, Die, Repeat. Is that the actual title?
Yeah, Live, Die, Repeat, or they had 2 titles.
I know, that's what I was going to say. What was the other title?
Edge of Tomorrow?
Okay, yeah. Live, Die, Repeat / Edge of Tomorrow, which I did do as a quick pump, but obviously deserves a full buff episode.
Definitely.
It's beefy enough, so
new
I'm
format,
excited to revisit it.
Tom Cruise double feature back
Hell
to back.
yeah.
Let's go.
Let's go. So yeah, thanks again for listening. We'll catch you next time on another edition of Movie Buffs. Until then.
Yo, homie. That my briefcase?